Hello, I'm Dave Mills, Technology Librarian for the West Wyandotte branch of the Kansas City, Kansas Public Library. I'm here with another Microsoft Office tips video, and this go around, I like to give you some tips with Microsoft Excel. Sometimes you might use the exact same spreadsheet format on a daily basis, and as such, you don't want to do much changes except for the date and time. Now in this spreadsheet example, it's a spreadsheet tracking sporting goods sales. And I have everything plugged in here except for today's date and time. And it's perfectly fine to go to my keyboard and type out the date and time, but also consider using the keyboard shortcut. So I'm going to click right next here to sales date, and then the keyboard shortcut I'm going to use here is Control plus semicolon, and that plugs in the date. However, when I look at the date here, I don't like the format there. I want to change it so it reads September 7th, 2021. Now, how do I do that? Well, on the Home tab, I'm going to go over to the Number section here, and then I'm going to click on the dialog box launcher. And the date is already selected for me because Microsoft Excel detects that this is a date format right here. However, over here on the right-hand side, I have different choices as to how to represent the date. So I'm going to scroll down, and I like March 14th, 2012. And I'll click on that, and I get a sample showing what today's date will actually look like, September 7th, 2021. And so I'm going to accept the changes by clicking OK, and my format of my date changes here. Now to plug in the time, I'm going to use a different keyboard shortcut here, Control, Shift, semicolon, and that gives me the exact time of 6:10 p.m. Sometimes you want to use the same spreadsheet on a daily basis. This is a spreadsheet that covers the sales of a sporting goods store, and I want to use the same spreadsheet for my next day's business. In other words, I want to create a duplicate spreadsheet. How can I do that in short order? Well, if I take my mouse pointer and go down to the bottom left and click and hold on sales, and then if I hit my control key, I can click and drag to the right, and there's a little image that's affixing itself to the end of my pointer here. As long as I clear the tab here, I can drop, and that gives me a second spreadsheet, Sales 2. Now the beauty of creating this duplicate spreadsheet is I can go up to the spreadsheet and clear out all the data from the previous day's sales, and then plug in the new data. And that's because I did not delete my total column here, and my total column has all the formulas that I'm working with here. And so, for example, let's say my first sale is 5 boxes of golf balls. So 5, and then the description. And let's say that the unit price is $3.99. And then when I press enter, Microsoft automatically generates my total for me. And by the way, when you do create a duplicate spreadsheet, don't forget to update your date and your time. Sometimes you'll work with a spreadsheet that has multiple worksheets within it. This is a vacuum and janitorial sales spreadsheet that tracks the sales of the company for the past 10 years. Right now, my active sheet is the April 2020 sheet, but I want to see what they did for 2011. Now, you can see that I have multiple tabs here indicating multiple spreadsheets here. And it's perfectly fine to use the scroll arrows to go back and forth to find the 2011 sales. But also, consider using a shortcut. And the shortcut goes as follows. If you take your mouse pointer and right-click on the scroll arrows to the right here, you'll get a little pop-up box here that gives you the dates of the previous year's sales. So I can just simply click on April 2011, click OK, and that now becomes my active sheet. Just like Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel employs the Format Painter. But unlike Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel uses the Format Painter in instances where your data is not consistent in your spreadsheet. Take a look at this technology checkout spreadsheet, and in particular, take a look at the D and E columns here. Both of these columns have a date in some sort of format, but if you notice, the dates are not consistent. We have short dates, we have long dates. It's my intention to make all the dates the same. And to do that, I'm going to start off by clicking on July 15th, 2015, located at cell D3. And then I'm going to go up to the Format Painter, which is located on the Home tab in the Clipboard section. I click once to turn the Format Painter on. And notice that I have a flashing marquee around my source. And that means that the format of July 15, 2015 is sent to the clipboard. Now to apply this formatting to the dates here in the D column here, all I have to do is click on the second piece of information here, and then click and drag downward, and release, and that changes my formatting of all my dates in this column. Now I can do this again by clicking on my source again and clicking Format Painter. And then I can do the same thing with the E column here. Clicking and dragging and then releasing with the Format Painter turned on will change my data and make my dates more consistent looking. Now if you look more closely in my E column here, you'll see that there are a couple of cells that are blank. And that's just an indication that whoever checked out the technology equipment here have not returned their technology equipment. But I want to bring this attention to the reader of my spreadsheet. And so what I'm going to do is on row 5 here in the E column, I'm going to put a yellow background as a visual cue to the reader of the spreadsheet that that equipment has not been returned. And I want to apply this to the other 3 spots where once again the equipment was not returned. And I'm going to use the Format Painter here, but instead of clicking once on the Format Painter, I'm going to click twice. And that takes the formatting of this cell right here, and I can go to the other cells and click once, and then click once, and the formatting of my source is applied to the other 3 areas. Now don't forget that when you're done with the Format Painter, remember to click once on it to turn it off. Sometimes a spreadsheet may seem so large, it might seem like a daunting task to come with calculations to calculate your daily sales. As you can see, there are about 24 or 25 items here in my sales spreadsheet here, and I need to calculate the daily sales for all the items that I sold today. I already did a formula for the first item, the Top Flight golf balls here, but I also need to finish out the rest of my sales here. So if I click here, it's okay to use the autofill handle to click and drag to calculate the other totals, and you'll get the correct totals too. But there's also another shortcut, and that's by double clicking on the autofill handle. And so I'm going to point my mouse at the autofill handle, double click, and Microsoft Excel fills in my sales totals for each of my items that I sold today. And Microsoft knows when to stop the calculations because it does not detect any data on row 31 right here. Now here's also another little trick here. I'm going to highlight from my first item down to my last item, and I could tell you that in today's sales I sold $3,528.24 worth of items today. And how do I know that without doing a formula or using my calculator? Well, I'll direct your attention down to the lower part of the screen here, and Microsoft sometimes will come up with summary statements that focuses in on your data. So here, my average sale of items was $135.70. Let's see, I sold 26 items, and then my sum of totals is what I told you, $3,528.24. Microsoft, if Microsoft sees some numerical data it can analyze, on the bar down below here, it'll give you a summary of what it sees. Now that we've got our sales figured out, we probably need to figure out our overall daily sales. So I'm going to click on A31 here, and I'm going to type in sales total. And then I need to calculate the sales totals right here. And I already told you I already know what the total is right here, but I need to show it on my spreadsheet here. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click at D31, and it's okay to use the auto sum here, but there's also another keyboard shortcut, and that keyboard shortcut is Alt equals. There we go. And it's focusing in on the data above here. And here's the function statement, equals sum, begin parentheses, D5 colon D30 close parentheses. And that's what I want, so I'll press enter. And there's my daily total. Just like other programs from the Microsoft Office suite, Microsoft Excel also employs the Quick Access Toolbar. And just like any other program, you can add buttons to the Quick Access Toolbar. So, for example, on the Home tab, I'm going to go all the way over to the Editing section and click on the Sort and Filter drop-down list. From there, I'm going to right-click on the Sort A to Z. From that menu, I'm going to click on Add to the Quick Access Toolbar. And if you look to the left in the upper left-hand corner, you can now see that the Sort A to Z button is now part of the Quick Access Toolbar. Now, it's possible to activate your Quick Access Toolbar without using your mouse. So, for example, I'm going to move my cursor box to the first name column here. And it's my intention to put the first names here all in alphabetical order. And to do that, I'm going to press the Alt key. And notice up on the Quick Access Toolbar that there are numbers that are superimposed on each of the commands. The Sort and Filter button is command number 4, so I'll press number 4. And watch what happens to my data in my spreadsheet, especially in my first name column. All the names there are now in alphabetical order. Now, if I wanted to do the same, or make the correction and make the last names in alphabetical order, all I have to do is move my cursor box to the C column. Once again, press the Alt key, and then press the 4 key, and all of the last names are now in alphabetical order. And not only that, the corresponding data around those names also move. With all the rows and with all the columns in a Microsoft Excel worksheet, it is very easy to fill up your worksheet with information. Whether it's 20 records, 40 records, 4,000 records, or 1,000,000 records, Microsoft can accommodate all that record keeping. However, for all the increasing amounts of data that you put in, sometimes it gets increasingly difficult to make sure that your data is correct. Let's take example of this region column right here. As you can see, this region is part of the spreadsheet, and it shows the region where the salespeople worked. And primarily they worked in the North region, the South region, the East region, or the West region. But if you look at the data in this column, you see that there's some misspellings going on right here. And that might come with the fact that you're entering data so much that you might have fumbly fingers on the keyboard and you might misspell a couple things. However, Microsoft is capable of helping you in the event that not all of your typing is accurate. Well, first of all, you can go to the Review tab and use the Spelling and Grammar button if you want to do that, but also there's another way, and that's by using your Filtering button from your Home tab. So from Home, if you go all the way over to the Editing section and click on the Sort and Filter button right here, and then go down and click on Filter, your filtering is now on for your spreadsheet. Now I'm going to go over to the Region column right here, and I'm going to click on this drop down right here. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to first of all, I'm going to deselect all the records that are correct. So East is correct, North is correct, South is correct, and West is correct. And by removing these check marks right there, they're going to be temporarily removed from the spreadsheet. And when I click OK, what's left are all the misspellings from my spreadsheet. And so I can just merely go in there and do the corrections. So EST is, and this is, Okay, these are all corrected now. And with these all corrected, you can go to this button underneath region and then include everything into your spreadsheet. And now everything reads as a proper region, north, south, east, or west. And this comes in handy, especially in situations where you might need to create a chart or even a pivot table. A chart is a good way of bringing a visual representation to your Excel spreadsheet. This is a simple example of a spreadsheet with names and scores, and I want to insert a chart to complement this spreadsheet right here. And to do that, first of all, I'll have to highlight my spreadsheet. So I will click on one corner and then click and drag to the other corner to select the entire spreadsheet. My next step is I'll have to click on the Insert tab, and then I'll direct my mouse to the Chart section right here. And Microsoft has several preloaded formatted charts I can use. I'm going to choose the bar chart up here in the upper left-hand corner. I'll click, and I get a drop-down list of choices here. I'm going to choose the 2D column chart up here in the upper left-hand corner. And notice that when I float my mouse over this choice, Microsoft generates a preview of what my bar chart might look like. And I kind of like it, so I'm going to go ahead and click on it to lock it in. And so right now, I got a good visual representation of the data that's on this simple spreadsheet to the left. But what happens when I want to add additional data to my spreadsheet? Well, let's find out. Let's see if it has any influence on the chart here. So I'll click on row 13 here, and I'll type in a new name and a new score. And unfortunately, if you look at the chart to the right, nothing happens here. There is a way to have your chart automatically update when you automatically update your spreadsheet. And that's to convert your spreadsheet to a table. And this is how you do that. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and delete my bar chart. And then I'm going to reselect my spreadsheet here from corner to corner. And then from the Home tab, I'm going to go all the way over to the Style section right here. And I'm going to click on the Format as Table button right here. I get a drop-down list of choices here, and any of these choices will help me in my purpose here. So I'll simply click on this choice right here. The next thing that pops up is Microsoft wants to know if you want to maintain your first row as headers. And I do, so I'm going to leave a check mark here in this box right here. I click OK, and my spreadsheet is now a table. Now with this table now selected here, I can go back to the Insert tab and click on my bar chart and lock it in. And so I now have the same bar chart, but when I decide to go in and add data, and a new score, my bar chart updates, and I can continuously add data as I need it. Sometimes, if you have multiple worksheets in your workbook, you need a focus point to help you complete your calculations. Now, in this spreadsheet example, I have 3 worksheets in my workbook here. The first tab covers a summary of my sales, and then Sales Group 1 gives me a detailed listing of how my salespeople did in that group, and Sales Group 2 does the same thing, a detailed listing of how my salespeople did. Now, if you look at both of these sales group spreadsheets here, you can see that they have subtotals, and you also see they have grand totals. And as a matter of fact, if you look at location F12 here on the sales group 1 and look up on the formula bar, you see I have a calculation calculating the grand total. And also the same thing in the sales group 2. I have a formula calculating the grand total. But what is missing in both worksheets here? It's the sales tax. Right now, both are reading as empty. So I need to find that focal point in order to complete my calculations here. And where's that focal point? I place it on the summary worksheet. It's under the county sales tax at 7.5%. Now, how do I plug this into the other worksheets? I rename F2 as a name range. And how do I rename a name range? Well, I click on F2, then I'm going to go up to the name box here and click, and I'm going to type the nature of that data that's at F2. In this case, it's sales tax. So I type in the word sales tax, and only one word, two separate words don't work here. And then once I've got that typed in, I press enter. And now I can go ahead and go to my Sales Group 1 worksheet and complete the calculations. So right now my cursor box is at F11, and then I start things off like any formula or like any function. I type the equal sign, and then I type in the name of the range, sales tax. And as a matter of fact, Microsoft recognizes this from the other spreadsheet, so it completes the thought for me. So I can just take the shortcut by hitting my tab key, and my sales tax cell is locked in there, and I can press enter, and my calculations are complete here. Now if I go to Sales Group 2 and make sure that my cursor box is at F12, once again I type in the equals key, and then I type in the name of the range, and once again Microsoft recognizes it, so I can hit my tab key, I press enter, and my calculations are complete for me. And to bring this to full circle, I'm going to return to the summary page, and you can see that my calculations here for Sales Group 1 and Sales Group 2 have been updated by virtue of the fact that I was able to plug in the sales tax name range into the two other spreadsheets. In the previous section of this video tutorial, we talked about how name ranges can tie together data from multiple spreadsheets in figuring out calculations. This spreadsheet here is a little bit different though. We're focusing in on one worksheet, but we need to figure out the sales tax for all these items right here. So let's start things off first of all by figuring out the sales tax for the golf balls that were sold here. So I'm going to click my mouse at F5, and then I'm going to type in my formula that I plan to use. And I'll click on the 8.25%, that's the sales tax rate. And I remember to close my parentheses here. So this is the formula to calculate my sales tax for the golf balls. I press enter, and Microsoft Excel calculates my total sale there. Now, if I were to try to copy and paste in the same formula for the rest of these items, something happens here, and I'll show you. You'll see that each one of these sales items here does not include the sales tax. And so how do I calculate the remaining items here to include the sales tax? I use something called an absolute reference. And this is how the absolute reference works. I'm going to delete my work right here, and then I'm going to retype my formula for the golf balls. And once again, it's going to be equals, and then the price of the golf, or the subtotal of the golf balls, times, open parentheses, 1 plus, and then I click on the sales tax rate right here, and then I close my parentheses, but I'm not quite ready to press enter on my keyboard. Instead, I'm going to go up to the formula bar and highlight the C18 here, which is where the sales tax rate resides, and I'm going to make this an absolute reference. Now, a definition here. An absolute reference in an Excel spreadsheet means that you're making a reference to one point and one point only. And so that's what I need to do with the remaining items here. I need to make a reference to the location C18. And how do I do that? Well, first of all, in my typing here, I can go to my keyboard and type dollar signs in front of my locations here. And the dollar signs there in your formula mean that it will make an absolute reference. But also, there's also a keyboard shortcut. So let me go ahead and back these out of here. And then I'm going to re-highlight the C18 here. And then on your keyboard, I'm going to refer you to the F4 key. And I'm going to press the F4 key once, and watch what happens up here on my formula bar. I get absolute C, absolute 18, which means that this calculation is making a absolute reference to location C18 and C18 only. So I press enter on my keyboard and I get the same result as before. But now when I copy and paste in the remainder of my formulas here, Microsoft Excel manages to make the calculations for the remainders of the items to include the sales tax. And upon closer scrutiny, if I click on one of the sales items here and look up on the formula bar, I can see that my reference to C18 doesn't change here. So I can click on various items here and it's C18 and C18. So once again, an absolute reference makes a reference to one location on your spreadsheet, and that comes in handy when you need to do calculations like sales and sales tax.